President Donald Trump has confirmed that the Gordie Howe International Bridge will open this month. Traffic is now scheduled to begin moving across the bridge on July 27th. But the bridge did not simply open because construction was finally complete. It opened after Canada and the United States reached a new agreement over tolls, profits, and who gets a say in the economics of the crossing. And that confirms the central argument we made in our previous reports. Canada financed the route, but America controlled the gate. In our first video on this bridge, we explained why Canada spent billions of dollars building a new crossing between Windsor, Ontario, and Detroit, Michigan. The objective was bigger than reducing congestion. Canada wanted to weaken a decades-old private choke point at the Ambassador Bridge, protect the Windsor-Detroit manufacturing corridor, and create a more reliable route for North American trade. Then came the second chapter. The bridge was largely ready. The lanes existed. The ports of entry were prepared. The formal opening ceremony was approaching, but the Trump administration requested a delay. That was when the deeper weakness became visible. Canada could finance the bridge, build the roadway, construct facilities on both sides of the Detroit River, but could not make an international border crossing function without the cooperation of the United States. That was gate power. Now, the third chapter has arrived. President Trump says he secured what he called a much better deal for America, and the bridge will be allowed to open on July 27th. The question is, what changed between the delay and the opening? The official Canadian announcement uses careful language. It says, Canada and the United States agreed on greater toll governance cooperation and transparency. It says they will establish a 15-year economic development fund tied to a portion of the profits generated by bridge operations. It also says the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority will consult the U.S. government and seek its agreement for certain toll adjustments that are not driven by normal market conditions. That alone is a significant change. But reporting from Reuters adds more detail. According to two sources familiar with the agreement, the United States will receive 50% of toll revenue profits. The US will also reportedly be able to veto a toll increase if it exceeds 10% of the existing toll level. But the precise legal and financial structure still matters. This is not necessarily half of every toll dollar collected. Bridge operating costs have to be paid first. The official Canadian wording refers to a regional development fund supported by a portion of bridge profits. But whichever wording is used, the underlying economic shift is clear. The United States went from contributing none of the original construction financing to gaining a new role in the future profits and toll governance of the bridge. Canada carried the financial burden. Canada funded a project now valued at roughly 6.4 billion Canadian dollars. The United States had declined to finance the construction. The original plan was for Canada to recover its costs through tolls over approximately 30 years. That was the bargain. Canada would pay up front. Both countries would benefit from the new trade corridor. Canada would then use toll revenue to repay the enormous investment. But when the bridge approached opening, President Trump argued that the arrangement was unacceptable to the United States. He threatened to block the crossing. The June opening was delayed at the request of his administration. Negotiations followed. And now a new financial arrangement has emerged. This is where our earlier thesis becomes difficult to ignore. The country that finances a trade route does not automatically control it. Leverage belongs to whoever controls the gate. Canada had the money. Canada had the concrete. Canada had the steel. Canada had the completed bridge. But the United States controlled access to the American side of the border. That gave Washington the power to say the bridge would not operate under the original economic arrangement. And once Washington used that power, Canada faced a brutal choice. Ottawa could resist and leave a multi-billion-dollar bridge sitting empty. Or it could compromise, accept a new arrangement, and get traffic moving. So, it chose the second option. That may be understandable. Every month, the bridge remained closed meant lost economic value. The Windsor-Detroit corridor is not an ordinary border crossing. It is one of the most important manufacturing and trade corridors in North America. Auto parts cross the border repeatedly before a finished vehicle rolls off the production line. Agricultural goods move through the region. Industrial equipment, machinery, consumer goods and essential supplies depend on predictable border access. The existing Ambassador Bridge has carried enormous pressure for decades. The Gordie Howe Bridge is meant to add capacity, reduce congestion, and give businesses another route. Studies suggest the new crossing could cut around 20 minutes from some truck journeys and save billions of dollars in transport costs over its operating life. So Ottawa had strong reasons to get the bridge open. But economic necessity is exactly what creates leverage. The more valuable the bridge became to Canada, Michigan, automakers, truckers, and supply chains, the more expensive continued delay became. Trump understood that. The bridge was already built. Canada could not move it somewhere else, could not redirect it toward Europe or Asia, and could not replace the American port of entry with another buyer or another route. This was fixed infrastructure connecting two specific places, and that made the American gate uniquely powerful. There is another unresolved issue. If Canada originally expected toll revenue to repay the construction cost over 30 years, what happens when a large share of future profits is redirected into a regional development fund? Does Canada take longer to recover its investment? Does the bridge need more traffic? Could toll rates eventually face pressure? Will Canadian taxpayers carry more of the long-term burden? At the moment, the full effect on Canada's repayment schedule is not publicly clear, and that may become the most important financial question after July 27th. Trump presents the outcome as a victory for American negotiation. From his perspective, the logic is straightforward. The original agreement gave the US no direct toll revenue. Even though half of the bridge sits in Michigan and American infrastructure, workers and border agencies support the crossing. He threatened to withhold approval. Canada negotiated. The United States gained revenue and greater influence. Then the gate opened. But Canada's government presents the agreement differently. Ottawa emphasizes partnership, supply chain resilience, regional development, and the economic benefits the bridge will create on both sides of the border. That framing is also understandable. Canada does not want the bridge remembered only as a diplomatic defeat. The crossing remains a major Canadian infrastructure achievement. It breaks the long dependence on one privately controlled bridge. It strengthens the connection between Highway 401 and Interstate 75. It creates new border processing capacity. It supports Canadian and American manufacturing. And after years of construction, it will finally start carrying traffic. But both versions can be true at once. The bridge can be an infrastructure success for Canada, and the final negotiation can still expose Canada's vulnerability. Canada won the battle to build the route. America demonstrated that it still controlled the gate. That is the larger TradEconomics lesson. Infrastructure does not create sovereignty by itself. A pipeline needs a port. A railway needs border access. A bridge needs customs cooperation. A trade agreement needs political consent. The physical asset matters, but so does the authority that decides whether the asset can function. We have seen this pattern throughout this series. The Gordie Howe Bridge exposed gate power. The CPKC Railway showed how Canada can reduce dependence on some choke points by creating more integrated routes. Canadian oil showed that a resource becomes more valuable when it has additional buyers. CUSMA showed that even the legal operating system of trade can become a negotiating weapon. Now the bridge settlement brings us back to the beginning. Canada built the route. America controlled the gate. And the final price of opening that gate appears to be a new division of future profits and greater US influence over toll policy. On July 27th, the first vehicles are expected to cross. The photographs will show a completed bridge. Officials will talk about partnership. Businesses will celebrate new capacity. Commuters and truckers will finally use a crossing that took years and billions of dollars to deliver. But behind the opening ceremony sits a much harder question. Did Canada make a practical compromise to unlock an essential trade corridor? Or did Washington establish a dangerous precedent that the United States can wait until Canadian infrastructure is complete, control the final gate, and then renegotiate the economics? Because the bridge will open, but the lesson will remain. Financing the route is not the same as controlling it. The real power belongs to whoever can open or close the gate. What do you think? Was Canada right to compromise and get the Gordie Howe Bridge operating, or should Ottawa have resisted demands that changed the economics of a project Canada financed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button, share this video with someone following Canada-U.S. trade and infrastructure, subscribe to TradEconomics, and turn on notifications for more analysis of the power, money and supply chains behind the headlines.